where do you stay safe? Let's find out, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He's a writer, father, trial lawyer, and a best-selling author too, with the new release "Pretend They Are Dead." No other than Mr. Steven Eichenblatt. Welcome, Mr. Steven on Abstract Essay. Can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here today, this afternoon from Orlando, Florida. Uh, I've been a trial lawyer for over 30 years. I've got my own law firm and have been practicing personal injury law for since 1993. Before that, I was a insurance defense lawyer representing insurance companies, hospitals, doctors. I was on that side of the fence. And in the interim, I started to write. It's something that I always wanted to do. And as a lawyer, writing is essential, but you have to write legally, which means you have to write a certain way so the judges, uh, are convinced by your argument. Writing a memoir and a book is something totally different and something that I love doing, but it was took me a decade to finish it.
A decade to finish it, and congratulations, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Steven. Thank you. And how does childhood trauma create an unconscious operating system for our lives, dictating our relationships, reaction, and self worth long into adulthood?
Yeah, um, it's something that you carry around with you like baggage that maybe nobody else sees but you. It's something you have to learn how to convert from anger maybe to something a little bit more calming, a little maybe a more calm emotion. I carried secrets around with me that I talk about in the book for over 40 years that not even my closest friends or family knew about, and it took me a lot of therapy to get through some of the incidents in my past because I did not realize how much anger they were causing in me.
Interesting, Mr. Steven. We often think of traumas and memory in the mind, but you talk about it being stored in the body. What are the most common ways our bodies physically signal the presence of this unhealed childhood trauma?
Not I'm not a psychologist. I can only speak to how it affected me, and I can
Mhm.
tell you that because I grew in such a turbulent household, I learned how to compartmentalize. It's almost like you're deadening your emotional nerves. It's kind of like if every day that you walk into the house, you have to be careful not to step on minefields. You get used to that, and you learn a coping method. But it also by deadening some of my emotions, it made it harder for me to connect later on in my life in like intimate relationships. Led to a couple divorces. Um, I'm not blaming all of that on childhood trauma, but when you talk about emotional or how it changes you, it makes you feel, it just there are certain things that made me tougher and certain things that made me almost too tough because I could be cold and distant.
Cold and distant. Amazing phrase. What are some of the common survival persons that children develop, and how do these masks later limit our authentic selves as adults?
I'm not really qualified to answer other than to tell you that for me, uh, being in a house that with so much trauma, I had a abusive adopted father who adopted me. My biological father abandoned me at an early age, and so it's really hard to learn to trust people because of the whole abandonment issue. Um, and frankly, I was sort of like on my own from an early age. You're kind of, even though you're in a house with other people, everybody has to survive in their own way, and everybody has their own journey. And uh, so I went from like hitting rock bottom in some ways, as a teenager, to then realizing at one point, listen, nobody's going to do this for me. Even though I was traumatized and I was kind of pushed down, during my childhood, nobody's going to do this for me. If I want to accomplish anything in life, if I want to help other people, I need to turn it around.
Yes, turn it around so that you can help other people, empowering them to be better. Why do so many survivors unconsciously recreate the dynamics of their traumatic past in their adult relationships or choices? And what is the first step to breaking that cycle,
And
Mr.
that's
Steve?
Well, I can tell you a couple things. One is, for me, and writing my book, I was keenly aware that my biological father had, of course, left me. His biological father had left him. His brother, and talk about a cycle. His brother also left his kids. So I come from two generations of divorce, and when I had my kids, I have 5 children. The last thing I wanted to do was be that father that left his family. Um, so I wanted to break that cycle of abandonment. And the other way to answer the question too is, once I figured out, and it took me a long time, that a lot of the childhood trauma I was carrying around that was affecting me, I made the decision to go to therapy, to figure out exactly what was going on inside and how to exercise my demons.
Exercise your demons. And Mr. Stephen, on the turning point and the choice to heal, what was the defining moment or breaking point in your life or your own life that moved you from simply coping with the trauma to actively seeking transformation?
I think for me, transformation happened, when I went to college at Florida State. I was struggling. I got kicked out of school. I was doing way too much partying and not enough studying, and I really had no direction. I didn't even know why I was in college. So I made the decision to move to Israel. And I went to Israel and went and worked on a kibbutz, which is something that people have learned a lot more about since what happened over there on October 7th. But I went and worked on a kibbutz and was planning on joining the uh, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. While I was there, working with my hands, picking fruit, working in the fields, working in the gardens, cleaning up chicken poop. I mean, I did, I was a worker. And while I was there, I would go to the library. They had a library on the kibbutz, and there was a lot of self-help books. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, was one example. And there's several different books. And as I started reading them, I realized, self-help is, you got to help yourself, and no one's going to do it for me, and I don't really have family support. And if I want to make something in my life, I can't spend my life as a victim. you know I got to turn what happened to me, trauma, into triumph, as they say.
Yes, a triumph indeed. And Mr. Stephen, a key step is often acknowledging the narrative of what happened. How does one start to tell the story without being re traumatized by it?
Mhm. um, Boy, that's a great question. And I don't think, as I was writing the book, I don't think I was re-traumatized as much as I was able to look at things from a distance and what happened and understand more about what happened. Um, so my book opens with me. I had a job at a tennis court. I was 16 years old. I've already mentioned my father left me at a very young age, my biological father. I was at a tennis court. It was on July 4th, 1975. So that's how long ago that was. So old I am. And I was the only person there. And I heard this noise. I heard tires squealing, and a car hit a telephone pole about 20 feet from where I was, like right on the other side of the fence from where I was working. And I'd never seen anything like that, a car crash, and there's smoke and smells and gasoline, and I was like panicked. The adrenaline kicks in, and I ran up to the car, and a man had gone through the windshield, and I ran to there's a payphone to call the police or the ambulance. And back then there wasn't cell phones, uh, and so you had to find the payphone. And as I did that, I could see that other people were coming out. They had heard the accident, and he had hit a telephone pole. I went up there to just to kind of just to see if there's anything else I could do. I parked my Schwinn Varsity 10 speed next to me, next to where the crash happened. And as I was standing there, they had this man off to the side, kind of leaning against the car, and he had regained consciousness. And as I was standing there, I could feel somebody looking at me, like I could just feel like his eyes on me, even though I didn't see him. And when I turned around, he he had actually one of his eyes got cut basically in half, and it was very bloody, but he was looking at me. And I got this really weird feeling in my gut, and um, I felt like something wasn't right. And the police officer that was there pulled out his wallet and said, does anybody know this man? And said his name, and it was my biological father.
Interesting, Mr. Steven. And society often tell us about let go of anger. How can connecting with our religious or righteous anger not as a destructive force, but as a protective one, be a vital stage in healing process?
So for me, kind of part of, and I have a chapter on this in the book too, was making the decision to go, seek therapy. I'd gone, and my book, I talk about this. I'd gone through a couple divorces, had some kids, and I was um, I was always told by my partners, "You're disconnected." And I would be like, "What does that mean, disconnection?" It just, I had trouble with intimacy, probably because of abandonment issues, um, and so I wound up going to a therapist. And during the therapy, which was really intensive, like a 6-hour therapy session, like you're trying to clear everything out at one time. Um, I recognized that I had a lot of anger, and most of it was directed at my adopted father, because he was violent and would call me names and call everybody else names that was around him. He's an abusive man. And when I was 17, I finally had had enough, and I attacked him, physically attacked him, and beat him to the ground. And he was a tough guy. He was a really tough guy. He boxed in college, and I'm not a violent person. It's not who I was. But I had just had enough, and I exploded. And during that, I had my hands around his neck, and I was squeezing, like almost like I was going to kill him. And I got pulled off of my 7 brothers and sisters, and then I left the house and didn't come back for quite a while. But during the therapy session, as I started walking through that, I realized that I was carrying around, I was still letting this man control me through his through my anger at him. I could still hear his voice, demeaning and calling me names. And the therapist took me like step by step through my emotions on that day, that I had gotten in the fight, how the rest of my family responded to it. And then whether, if I had not been pulled off, whether or not I would have actually killed him, um, which is a hard question to answer, because I was out of my mind. But uh, so by going through the therapy, I I dug deep and things came out that I'd never shared before, and that was one of them.
Just one of them. Well, Mr. Steven, you can process trauma until you feel safe. For someone whose nervous system is wired for threat, what does a building an internal sense of safety actually look like as a first practical step?
First practical step is recognizing that you have an issue, whatever it is, whether it's childhood trauma or something in your marriage or whatever it is. Recognize that you have it and go ask for help. Um, we live in a society now, especially in these years, where there's lots of people with anxiety and depression and still overcoming the pandemic and so don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid if you're a member of a church or a synagogue or a mosque or whatever to seek help there if you don't want to go to a therapist or go see a therapist. I mean that is so step one is recognizing that you have an issue, and step two is going to get the help in the place you're most comfortable.
Well, interesting indeed. Mr. Steven, as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Um, I'm a young writer, but an old lawyer, I guess I would say. So my goal with writing the book was to reach out to people that have been in similar situations and and have this book help them, have the message in the book and my story, which contains some pretty uh, crazy situations, um, that many more people can identify with than you would know. But so my goal is really just to be able to use my book as a tool to help other people, to help fathers recognize how important it is for them to be close to their family, to show vulnerability, to show emotion, to be transparent, um, and to just to recognize that by reading the book that there are ways to get help.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Steven, and looking forward for more success. And what will you be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be an author like you?
uh, well, if you want to be a writer, um, first of all, you need to sit down and start doing the work. And the most practical advice that I've been giving to people who actually want to write is, when you sit down at your computer or whatever it is you're going to write, just don't worry about grammar, don't worry about AI or any of that junk. Just, which is not junk, but um, just let what's in your brain go onto the page. Let it go from your brain to your fingers. Don't analyze. Don't Just throw everything out there first on the page. You can always go back and change it. Um, and just let it all out let your words out, almost like a journal. And when you're writing, if you're looking to write a book or whatever it is, approach it like you might. I'm a marathon runner, right? So that you have a specific training schedule that you have to keep to. And when I started writing my book, I approached it the same way. I created a good space for myself on where I could be inspired, to write. And then I would get up every morning, and I would be at my computer by, five. I would write from 5 a.m. to maybe 7 a.m., and then I would, go to work. But I approached it like you would a marathon. Probably do, and try to do a certain number of words. But you have to sit down first. You got to sit down and just let it rip.
Well, thank you for that advice, Mr. Steven. And can you please recommend a book or books that influenced your journey?
Recommend books that influence my journey. I mean, How to Win Friends and Influence People is something that certainly helped me along. I like self-help books. There's a couple books out there by like Tony Robbins that inspired me early. Zig Ziglar was another one, who wrote a lot of, these are just all self-help books. I mean, I'm a huge reader, and there are plenty of books that inspired me in different ways. But just for pure positive reinforcement. There's a couple books by John Wooden, who was a famous basketball coach, coached UCLA for many years, and he wrote some really inspirational books that kind of hit home for me.
Well, thank you for that recommended books, Mr. Steven. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And how does a healing from a childhood trauma allow you to discover and finally express your authentic voice, needs, and desires in the world?
It's it's actually really helped to get out there and tell my story and share things like the car accident. I never told anybody that I was there, that I saw, that I witnessed that. Never told anybody until I was in my 40s that I had been there. So I think that, being transparent, being open, being willing to talk to other people about whatever it is that you're going through, developing strong relationships, mentors, partners, friendships that you can rely on, I think is an important tool as well.
Definitely important indeed. And what do you say to someone who feels the trauma was not that bad or believes they are too broken to ever heal?
It's everybody, as long as you're willing to get up and do the work, can improve. And I know that some circumstances are much worse or more difficult than maybe the ones I went through. Um, but you only have one life. So uh, I have family members, because I did come from a big family who uh, have never really been able to escape, the trauma that they experienced in childhood, in our childhood, and I had made the decision to fight through it. So I think, if you, no matter how bad the trauma was, you've just got to work on yourself if you want to get better. Um, and that's really the best thing I could say about it.
Definitely the best thing to do. And before we wrap up our discussion today, Mr. Steven, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 are in fourth season, science 101, sex 101 second season, and my baby podcast law 101, mental health and Bible verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Steven, if you could distill the entire journey down to one thing, what is the ultimate shift in identify or the identity from what to what that defines true personal transformation is?
Mm. I think I went from being, the biggest transformation is from being kind of a cold on the inside with not much emotion, to becoming much more emotional, much more intentional, and allowing myself to show vulnerability.
Vulnerability indeed. So, Mr. Scott, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And can you please invite our listeners to support your Pretend They Are Dead to the world?
Well, you're welcome. It was an honor to be here with you today.
Yes, likewise. So, where do people can buy your book, Mr. Steven?
Sure, my book is available, on Amazon or any of the online booksellers. I have a website, www.stevenscotteichenblatt.com. It's not the easiest to spell, but you can find my book on Amazon. Absolutely.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Steven Eichenblatt because if you support him for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Steven, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You take care, Daniel. Have a good day.
Have a good day, sir. Mordecai people, see you soon.